Hello, welcome to World on a String Designs. I'm Alicia. Today I'm going to take you through 22 patterns that you can use for your scraps, minis, or advents to make one big beautiful project, or maybe just a teeny tiny project. Come along, let's have a look, shall we? I have broken these down into 3 categories. So what we're going to look at today is standalone projects that are really just tiny projects. So you're only going to use a little bit, it's going to be one little thing, and you can make multiple of that thing if you like or not. Next we have mini only projects. So these are going to be projects that use your minis, and they're going to, probably the colors are going to interact with each other and they're going to touch each other in that project. And they're going to be bigger projects that use multiple minis. And the third category is minis with an anchor color. And so these are going to be, you have a bunch of different colors in your minis or your advents, but the colors don't touch each other. They're broken up by another color, such as a neutral or a bright color that maybe has something in common with your group of minis. So some of these are free and some of them are paid patterns, and I will let you know what the cost is for each one as we go along. I do want to say I have made some of these projects, and there are others that I have not tried. So I will try to let you know when it's one that I have made myself and how I enjoyed it. This does seem to be the time of year that some people might be planning their advent calendars and whether or not they want to get an advent around the holidays or Christmas time. And hopefully this video will come in handy for helping you decide what type of projects you might want to do and if an advent calendar is well suited to you, or perhaps you just want to work down your scraps and make something pretty with them, or maybe you have leftovers from your sock yarn subscription. Most of these projects are going to be fingering weight projects. I think there might be 1 or 2 that are worsted, but in that case you can hold multiple strands together. You can hold 2 strands of fingering together to get about a worsted weight, or you can, in the case of one of them, if you just use a smaller needle, you get a smaller item. In that particular case, it's appropriate. So starting off with our standalone mini projects. First up we have It's the Balm sock, and this is by Julie Tarsha. And this is a little ornament that also doubles as a gift holder because you can put a lip balm in it and use it as a gift. You could use these as gift tags, and you could stripe them if you want to use multiple colors, or you could just do one yarn color, whether it's variegated or self-striping or speckled or solid. These would look great and super adorable. Again, the designer is Julie Tarsha. This is a paid pattern and the cost is $3 US. Next up we have Pint-Sized Pines. This is also a pattern by Julie Tarsha. And again, this is a paid pattern. This is also $3 US. And these are just adorable little trees that you make from your scraps. And they look adorable when you put them on corks. The corks look like the little trunks. And you could make your own little holiday forest with these. You could also put these on just a bottle of wine if you want to, if you're gifting a bottle of wine and you just want to make it more festive or dress it up a little bit. And these are super adorable. Next up is the Cheers pattern. This is by Cheryl Nyamath. This is a free pattern. I have made this pattern and it's really well written. It's very well done. It even has instructions to make the little hangers. And I made up a bunch of these and I use them for gift tags. So I knit up the little sweaters, and then I found, just on Pinterest I think, a little chart for the alphabet that was about the right size, and I did duplicate stitch over the front of the sweater. So it's sort of like the Harry Potter, like the Weasley sweaters, and it had the recipient's initial on the sweater so everybody knew who the gift was for. Definitely would recommend this pattern. Again, the price is right at being free, so there's that. Next up we have Smitten, a holiday garland, and this is a pattern by Emily Ivy. This is a free pattern. This is the one that was written in worsted weight. Again, you could just use smaller yarn and needles and have smaller mittens, but how adorable is this? And you could even do a garland with all different, I mean, you could do a fade or you could do a rainbow, you could do holiday colors, you could also just do random colors, and it would be adorable, sort of like the Island of Lost Mittens, and where they all get celebrated. But these I think are adorable, and they make a wonderful garland. And you could even put little treats in them, like an advent, like a countdown. Next up we have the LFA Mini Sock. This is a pattern by Sue Stokes, and this is a free pattern. And just have a look at how adorable that is. All those little socks. And you could do this, you could do like a garland on your mantle, like you're hanging the stockings, and you could put treats or chapstick or little advent gifts in the little stockings. That would be super adorable. Next up is the textured Tootsies pattern. I have made many of these. I will often make up these socks when I'm finished making socks for myself with the leftovers. I'll make up a pair of these, and it's sort of like a nice thing to have, like a collection, so it's similar to my own sock collection. But this is just a very eye-pleasing pattern. I have gifted many of these to new parents. It's always very well received and a big hit. They look adorable on the kids, and they do have you can kind of see this has ribbing, and they have sizes from newborn, I think, to 6 months, but it does have ribbing, so it stays on their feet pretty well. This is a free pattern. Can't remember if I said already, the designer is Julie Tarsha, and very well written pattern. Like I said, I have knit this myself many times, and yeah, definitely a hit. So I have two honorary standalone projects. So these are actually collections, and they are related. These are the Grimblewood Collection, Volume 1 and 2. And you guys, look how adorable these gnomes are. There's a little house and a toadstool. And if you had like a collection that is somehow designed to go together, that the colors all are related, like say if it's holiday colors or something like that, or rainbow colors, you guys, this would look so adorable. You could have like your own little holiday layout. Look at that. There's a little castle. I think this is a ladybug, some Viking gnomes. You guys, this is so adorable. Next, we're moving into the projects with mini colors only. So this is without any additional full skeins of yarn. First up, we have the Sweet Shop Owner Wrap, and oh my gosh, look at these, the texture. We've got some lace, we have some knit and purl texture, we have garter stitch. This is adorable. There's a little bit of color work in here to help them fade together and blend together. And something like this, again, I'm going to say something that is lightly variegated. You can almost kind of see here where it's got a little bit of darker, where it kind of does get lost a little bit compared to, say, this sort of lighter variegated over here, right? Where these are more minimally variegated or lightly speckled, they sort of show up a little bit better. The pattern shows up better. And the lace, whether it be, pattern or lace, or texture pattern, anything like that is going to show up better. It's going to pop better if you keep the color contrast to a minimum. But I just love the way this looks. So this pattern designer is Kathy Gervin. This is a paid pattern, and the cost is about $5.99 USD. Next, we have The Secret Garden by Tracy Arnold, and this is another one that is very texture heavy, sort of like a sampler, where you get a little bit of lace, a little bit of seed stitch, a little texture here. Again, I would say this is going to be best for a semi-solid or lightly variegated. and it's really going to show off the design elements in it. Again, Tracy Arnold is the designer, and the pattern cost, this is a paid pattern, and the pattern cost is about $5.42 USD. Next up is the new Direction Shawl. This is designed by Julia Maria Hegenbart. The cost is about $7.86 USD. And I love how this has the texture that comes around, like, I don't know how well that's going to zoom in too far, but you get a little bit of stripiness from color to color, and then you get these, I assume is perhaps slip stitch. Let's see if we can get a better picture. But it really does show off the yarn, and it helps it to transition well. This would be gorgeous with a fade. I don't know that you necessarily need a fade though. To have this look amazing. And I think sometimes if you just take the yarns that you're thinking about using and lay them out in some different ways and find a way that it sort of transitions very nicely in a way that's appealing to you, and that might look something like a solid next to a variegated next to another solid, and the variegated pulls colors from each side. Something like that even could look absolutely amazing. Next, we have the Bits and Bobs socks, and the designer is Morgan Panic. Not sure how to say your name, Morgan, and I apologize if I've done it incorrectly. This is a paid pattern, and the cost is $6.50 USD. And look at this. This is amazing. I love the little scallop color work and the little pop of color. It gives it almost a lacy look. They're very feminine looking socks. I actually am wondering too if you could even use the pattern up around the cuff area to sort of bring that color down. This is a cuff down pattern, but I love this, and you could take and do 2 at a time, cuff down, and that way you get the stripes to match on each side. And this is just adorable. I definitely see some of these in my future. Very lovely design and very pleasing pattern. Again, I think you want a little bit of contrast from color to color so that that nice little pop of color work shows up nicely. If you have too gradual of a shift, it may not be very obvious. And I think in this case, you probably want that to be obvious. Next, we have Brioche Adventure by Jonathan Tallow. This is a paid pattern, and the cost is about $6.73 USD. And this is gorgeous. Look at those colors. And with brioche, you're using 2 colors, like say per row, and this will really help you transition the colors very well. So if you have 2 similar colors, they don't really have to be similar even, but it's really going to help break up those color transitions so that it's more gradual, and it's just going to give a delightful look. I mean, that is amazing. Look at that. This makes me want to get a Christmas Advent and do one this year. We will see how that goes. Next up, we have Leftover City, and this is a cowl, and this has a little bit of color work. So you have like a stripe where you have just the color that you're working with, and then you have the 2 colors together. So this is going to help transition the colors as well. And I think for this one, you may want, if you really like this sort of striped look and going in the up and down direction, you may want to make sure that you have good contrast between the 2 colors that are next to each other. And I still think it would look very good if you do a gradual one, but it's just if you really want these to pop, you're going to want starkly contrasting colors next to each other. And if you want a more gradual look, then you would want more similar, like the lights, perhaps like light to dark, like light on light and then dark on dark. The designer for this pattern is Casey Herlihy, and it is a paid pattern, and the cost is $7 USD. Next up is the Sleigh All Day Advent Wrap, and you can tell I am like super excited about the texture in this pattern. This is a design by Allison Stufer, and it is a paid pattern, and the cost is $7 USD. And look at that texture. It's so amazing. I love this. I love everything about this. And again, you may You may want to go with a more semi-solid, lightly speckled on this, um, just so that you're not losing the texture when you're having those color transitions. But this is gorgeous. And I do think you do an anchor color with this if you wanted, where you have these garter stitch ridges. That would be a good place to put an anchor color if you chose to use one. But like, you can kind of see how this looks fabulous just the way it is. So look at that. Oh, gorgeous. Next up, we have the Sprocket Socks. This is a design by Megan Nodecker. It is a paid pattern, and the cost is $7 USD. And again, this is one that I love the way these sort of fit together like a sprocket. And you kind of can see what the maker has done here. You'll kind of see there's very highly contrasting stripes next to each other, and that's going to really bring out that sprocket. So if that's a design element that you want, make sure you're using very different colors next to each other. And if you want it to sort of fade in more, then you would use more similar colors. But I love the pattern feature, the design feature here of that sprocket like look, where they look like gears fitting in together. And then to get that, you are going to want to make sure that you have highly contrasting colors touching each other in the stripes. Next up is the sea glass hat. And this is amazing. You could use like even the tiniest bits of scrap on this and it would still look adorable. Or you could use your advent and repeat your colors if you want. And I will say, I think any of the sea glass patterns would work for this. She does have, or Woolen Pine is the designer. It is a paid pattern. It costs $5. But they do have a sea glass series. And so there's a tee and a sweater, and I think there's some other patterns as well. And I think any of them really could work well with your advent minis or scraps. But yeah, this is just adorable. And I mean, just look at the color in that. It just really pops. This is one of those patterns that is just so well designed that, you could take something that is very different colors and have it look just amazing. Next up, we have the Regenbogel Ringel, and I hope I've said that correctly. I am not at all sure that I have. The designer is Scarlet Plume, and this is a free pattern, and I have made this pattern before, and I loved it. So this uses essentially a fade, so you can use any colors you want, and they are going to fade. And I mean, it's a cuff down pattern, but you could do toe up with it. You really could do it any way that you want. And you can kind of see on here, like somebody's added cables and, the different folks have used different heels. And so there's a bunch of different ways that you can make these work. And yeah, this was a great pattern. It's a free pattern as well, which is very generous on the part of the designer. And you really can, as long as, you have a certain number of stripes that you have to do to get the color transition. But aside from that, you can make shorties, you can make them calf socks or thigh socks if you want, right? You can make them as big or short as you would like. But other than that, you could put in multiple colors if you want more colors or fewer colors. I think I did mine with 3. So I had done a solid on the foot and a solid on the cuff, and then I did a variegated in the middle. And then I just made sure that the solids on either end had a color that was in the variegated as well. So it sort of looked like one big transition. They came out really well. I'll see if I can find a picture and pop it up. Next, we're going to move into patterns with an anchor color. And so these are going to be patterns where your minis aren't necessarily touching each other. They are, in most cases, touching a different color. These are the 24 Days Socks, and this is a pattern by Potter and Bloom. And the cost for the pattern, it is a paid pattern. The cost is $6.77 USD. And these are just adorable. I love all the stripes. I love that it has the neutral that's sort of pulling everything in together. And you can kind of see on some of these other photos that there's a number of different ways you could work this, and they all look amazing. There's a nice amount of texture in here. I really love the way that like the bottom you have the simple stripes and then on the top you have the more textured look. I think that adds a lot to it, and yeah, these are great. You could even do this with like a skein of variegated and a skein of a solid yarn, would look amazing as well. Next up is the Lamina cowl and wrap. So this is, you could choose to do a cowl or a wrap, and the designer is Amba O'Brien. This is a paid pattern and the cost is $7 USD. And you can see in this one there's this nice neutral has been used as an anchor color, and so that's doing the stripes in between the different colors, and it just ties it together so well. I mean, look how fabulous it looks. And then on this one they used a more bright color rather than a neutral. And just look at that lace, and again, like this is where your semi-solids really allow your pattern to shine rather than the color being the part of the project that really is the star of the show. And this one is gorgeous as well, and you'll notice on this one it does have the neutral stripes, but they're not all the same color, so you can mix it up a little bit that way as well. Gorgeous. Next up we have the Zelda Cowl. This is designed by Sarah E. Chapman, and this is a free pattern, and this I believe it calls for fingering weight, and I think you hold it double and work it up with a bigger needle size. And so in this one you have your anchor colors. You have, like in this case it looks like it's the teal, and it's been worked together, so most likely what you see is like in here you're working the stripes, two of the same color together, and then one of each, and then two of your feature color, and back to one of each, right? And then so you're sort of transitioning through, and I love the way this looks. I love the way it's knit on the bias. I love garter stitch. Is so squishy and cozy and comfortable. It's one of my favorites. And one of the things is it feels like it takes longer to work up because it is sort of compressed when you knit it up, as opposed to if you did a stockinette stitch, you get a longer garment with the same number of rows. And so I feel like you have to work hard for that garter stitch, but I also feel like it's worth it because it's so cozy. So again, the Zelda Cowl by Sarah E. Chapman, and this is a free pattern, and it looks amazing. I see this in my future, maybe for a fall or winter knit. And last but not least, we have the Broken Seed Stitch Socks. These are designed by Hannah Levanimi. Apologies, Hannah, if that's incorrect. This is a free download, and I have knit these socks, and these are amazing. So when I knit them, I did it with a hand spun, 2 hand spun yarns, and so it was a variegated and then a coordinating solid. And so it looked very similar to this one here, where you had the colors kind of throughout it, and the my contrast color was green, and then it had like greens and pinks and whites, and let's see if I can find a picture to put up. But this is a good example of how it might look with minis with stripes, and you can kind of see it just sort of works through and ties it all together. I think this looks great. This was the pattern looks very complex, and it comes out beautifully, and I definitely would recommend the pattern. It was very well written, and it was a joy to knit. You can kind of see some of these, like they all look fabulous, all these different ones. So you could do it with stripes with your minis. So those are 22 patterns that caught my eye for knitting advents or minis or scraps. And now I just want to do some stash busting. I don't know about you guys. If you have one that you know of that's not on this list that you'd like to share, please leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to see what you like and what you might be working on. I know this is a time of year where a lot of people are starting to think about maybe ordering minis. I see a couple on here that make me want one. More than one, of course, so I'll have to pace myself. I don't have a ton of extra knitting time because of all the projects that are already on my radar. But that's half of the fun, right? The project planning. So I hope you've enjoyed this pattern roundup. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.